everybody, this is Holy Night Podcast. I'm your host, Austin. My co-host is Mike.
Happy Friday.
We got a big show. We got Barbie Wilde on the show. Welcome to the show, Barbie.
Thank you for having me.
It's very honor.
Pleasure to be here.
I'm so happy that you're on the show. Let's get right to horror news. Lionsgate and CBS Films has announced they will be opening Hellfest a few weeks earlier, setting for theaters for September 28th, 2018. Tony Todd is in it. The film set a horror theme park during Halloween where a night of fun turns deadly as a consumed killer begins playing unexpectedly partners who believe that it's all part of the fun. I cannot wait to watch that movie.
Sounds fun.
Oh yeah.
It does.
The Soka sisters remake of David Cronenberg's Rabbit now filming in Canada.
Huh?
That's gonna be.
I'm aware of this, and I'm very, very excited about this. It's a reimagining. You get your remakes, but anything the Soska sisters turn their hands to will be audacious and brilliant and absolutely wonderful. I have high hopes for this. I'm so excited. I can't wait to see it.
I'm very excited too.
Is it like comparable kind of to Tim Burton, like when Tim Burton gets a hold of something, he kind of reimagines the whole thing?
Well, they make it into their own. And, also, they're fellow Canadians. I'm Canadian, they're Canadian, Cronenberg is Canadian. So they feel that they've got, it's a very important project for them. They feel the weight of having, doing this reimagining of his original film, but I think what they're going to be doing is fantastic, and I'm very excited to see this this film. I think it's going to be wonderful.
Very cool.
You heard it from here first. No, you didn't.
We'll take it from you first.
Yeah.
The internet is alive with all this. I noticed there was a lot of chatter in the last couple of days on Facebook about Dread Central and Bloody Disgusting all saying it started filming and all this sort of stuff. So they're, I think, in Toronto, and they're sending out little reports as they do, saying the first couple of days filming have just gone beyond what they'd hoped for. So I think we got a treat in store for us, guys.
Oh yeah, can't wait. Unfriended Dark Web is now in theaters. Cynthia, starring Scout Compton, Sid Haig, and Bill Moseley, hits theaters on August 31st. Hereditary is coming out Blu-ray and DVD on September 4th. Focus Features announces start of production on Jim Jarmusch's zombie comedy The Dead Don't Die, co-starring
comedy.
Yes, Tilda Swinton, Bill Murray, and Adam Driver.
What?
Yes.
Well, you know what? I'm a huge fan of Jim Jarmusch's vampire film, Only Lovers Left Alive. Have you guys seen that?
No.
Gotta see it. Two slacker vampires have been alive for centuries. One lives in Detroit, played by Tom Hiddleston. And there's Tilda Swinton. She lives in Algiers. And they get together and they don't want to drink blood from humans because it's so tainted and makes them sick. And so they buy blood from Jeffrey Wright, he's Felix Leiter in all the the James Bond movies. And it's one of those strange, slow-moving, but absolutely fascinating, because it's not full of, gory violence. There's lots of blood in it, but it's just actually one of my favorite, after the Hammer horror vampire films with Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee. And it's right up there as a top. And True Blood is wonderful as well, but this is one of my favorite horror movies. So highly recommend. So can't wait to see Jarmusch's take on the zombie genre.
Oh yeah.
I'm impressed. I'm impressed that he got Adam Driver and Bill Murray in this thing. I'm excited about that. I'm gonna tell you right now.
Now, some people know who Tilda Swinton is. She was in the movie Constantine. So
right.
she was really big in Constantine. Now
I not to step on your foot, Austin. I saw live stream reactions of people watching Unfriended, and it seems like it gets the same kind of reaction that, remember Blair Witch, when Blair Witch first came out, the first one?
Yeah.
And people in the theaters just freaking out. Like that's exactly what it looked like, that Unfriended movie. So I'm going to be checking that out for sure.
Says that Bobby, it says your co-stars were in Hellraiser Hellbound, the 1988 movie, Nicholas Vane, Simon Bangford, and Doug Bradley. Those people are so good in that movie. And it also says that you were in Death Wish 3, which is really cool. Now, Clive Barker was the writer of Hellraiser. Now his first Hellraiser movie came out in 1987. He's also a writer of Candyman, the 1992 movie, and Nightbreed, the 1990 movie. So that's really cool too. So the first question is, what's your favorite horror movie?
What's my favorite horror movie? Well, it would have to be Hellraiser, because it changed my life. One thing, I wouldn't be talking to you guys now, being in Hellbound, 30 years later, dear me. And the other thing that I love about Clive's work, it's so perverse, it's so sexy, it's so funny. Reading The Hellbound Heart, which is the novella on which it's based, it's a wonderful piece of writing. My favorite actually is Hellraiser, because and you interestingly didn't mention Ashley Lawrence and Claire Higgins, who are the female stars of the first two films, because to me Claire Higgins is the one who is the diva of horror, and Ashley is her wonderful, antagonist, protagonist, but I think, everyone thinks, oh, Pinhead, and it is a fantastic, wonderful character played by Doug. All the Cenobites are. But the thing is, to me, Julia, knocking people over the head with a hammer so she could get her dead lover's skin back. I mean, that's amazing. That's what I call dedication. That's obsession. So I think dedication. We see, it's a very surprising film. I remember going to see Hellraiser, going, whoa, the Cenobites were just like, what are these people? And this sort of S&M overtones. I mean, it was quite blatant. The sexual obsession, all this sort of stuff. Interestingly, there was a scene the American producers wanted Clive to cut out, and it was Uncle Frank giving Julia a spanking. Which I think, considering that people are getting their skins ripped off.
That's what they took exception with, was a spanking.
They took exception to the paddling scene, which I think is very, very funny. But anyway, to be honest, I write horror. I've written 3 female Cenobite stories. I'm working on a 4th one that appear in my collection of short horror stories, Voices of the Damned. Blatant plug. But
plug away.
Plug away. But my love of horror is sort of more of old-fashioned, the original thing from another world or from outer space, the black and white version, The Innocents with Deborah Carr, which is a ghost story, The Haunting, which is, again, the 1963 or 1 version, not the horrible remake with Liam Neeson. I love black and white horror. I love Peter Cushing, his Frankenstein was genius. His Van Helsing is wonderful. Those kind of old-fashioned films. Then you get into the body horror films of the 80s and the late 70s, like Alien, Carpenter's Thing. I love those. But I had nightmares before I even went to the thing. I just, what's I going to be like? Oh, I'm so scared. So, I was terrified watching Alien. So, those films I love. I love the Soska's American Mary. Wonderful. What was a recent one that I liked? Sinister, I thought was very effective. Although, it's Ethan Hawke, isn't it? I wanted him to to die horribly because he was so irritating. And I prefer horror films. Horror films. You think someone's in your house and you walk around in the dark with a baseball bat?
Yeah.
Call the police.
Yeah, honestly, I find a side effect of any Ethan Hawke movie is when even you know the Charles Dickens movie he remade. I just find him wanting to die. I want him to die in the movies. I don't know why. He's so. I hate to say it, but
Actually, good in Predestination, and Daybreakers. I really liked him in that film. And they're probably wandering way away from the original question, but I really am looking forward to seeing Hereditary, and the one that you have to be quiet in. Oh God, what's that one? A Quiet Place?
Yeah.
Yes.
Those look very interesting.
Very.
So,
I kind of had a question that's kind of off the cuff, but do you enjoy, as a big horror fan, do you enjoy horror movies that are more in your face with the horror, or more subtle, more kind of insinuate, less Saw and more Blair Witch? You know what I'm saying? Or you know what I mean? Do you like it when it's more like just like?
I'm much more into sort of psychological horror.
Right.
And I'm not particularly a gore whore because I don't mind it. I think that like I said, you probably can understand from my choices. To me, The Abominable Dr. Fives and Theater of Blood, which I recently watched, is actually quite disgusting and gory. Actually, the one with Vincent Price. But I prefer my gore in measure. Body horror films, like some of them I enjoy, but I think enjoy is a weird word. They're more cathartic than enjoyable. And since I write horror every day, or I try to, it's like when I down my tools, I want to go and drink a margarita and watch a film with palm trees in it, to be perfectly honest. It's there's some people who write in the genre and they want to feed on the genre. I have enough horror in my head. I will see things that seem to be particularly high on the public's radar because I want to keep, abreast of what's going on. And there's certain people that I really love, like the Soska sisters, that I will see everything they've done because I know it'll have an unusual twist to it. So,
yeah, that's gonna be.
That's a long answer.
Yeah. How is it like being in the horror community?
The horror community is a group of the most adorable people you could ever imagine. I think, you never know. I didn't know what was going to happen when I went to my first horror convention. And, everybody is totally respectful. They love the film. You have to understand, after I did Hellraiser, which is pretty much until last year the only horror movie I was ever in, I went on and did, my TV presenting, and then I became a casting director, and then I became a writer. And, years passed, and I didn't know that they'd gone on to make more Hellraiser films. And so when I went, especially to my first American convention, I didn't realize that the Hellraiser films had been on the Horror Channel and all that. And I just thought, why would anybody be interested in this little British film? And boy, were they, So you scared me to death when I was 8 years old. What were your parents thinking?
Exactly.
There's enough stuff in this movie.
When people tell me that's like when people tell me they saw Poltergeist as a kid, and I'm like, good parenting. Like, what the heck? I was like 20 before I ever saw that movie.
But, it's like when I saw Invaders from Mars, the 50s version, and then, I moved to London and I took my boyfriend to see it when we were both adults. I said, this film scared me to death when I was a kid. Every time my dad went to the basement, I thought I'd come up and check his neck to see if he'd been drilled by Martians. And we went to see this movie, and I actually wrote a short story about that too, Fear of Basements. And I dragged him to see this film, and you could see the zippers in the monsters' costumes when you get sucked into the Martian's lair, and it was just, it came out and he went, "That's the scariest film you've ever seen, huh?" This is before we went to see Alien. And I said, "Well, yeah." And he said, "The thing is, what was terrifying to a young child is the parents had been taken over by Martians and became robotic and obeyed their every command. And that's like paranoiasville for any kid, And so that's why that was frightening. But anyway, getting back to the horror community, I mean, meeting my fellow actors, there's never any, I've met some wonderful people, great actors who've been in movies and TV shows, and I'm not going to drop names, but, directors, highly respected directors, and they've been nothing but kind, polite, adorable, friendly, and it's the same with the fans. I've been very, very lucky that I've had wonderful fan experiences. But I think one of the nicest things is when I go to conventions, I get all these artists coming up and said, "I did this drawing of you as a female Cenobite." I went, and the artwork is beautiful. One guy came all the way from Uruguay to show me this poster that he'd done. It was at Texas Fight Fair in May, and he wanted us to sign his poster that he painted, and it was like, wow. It's just, it is, but it's, these are great artists, and they've been inspired by this, wonderfully bizarre little British film, the first two anyway. But, I always say, hand on heart, that Clive Barker is a genius, and he's a painter, he's an artist, writer, creator, writer of wonderful imaginative books. And the last time I saw him, I think he was working on 3 different novels or something, and he's just announced a TV show of Nightbreed, I think. So it's fantastic to be involved in a small way, and with somebody who's so, and he's still so wonderful, he's so down to earth and stuff like that. It's not, he's probably one of the most successful people in horror that I know.
Oh yeah.
But he's a writer. He writes horror, he writes fantasy, he writes things, but I think it's kind of sad that you can't. I don't want to diminish anyone by just being in one genre. Not that it's being diminished by being in the horror genre, because I love the horror genre. But I think it's interesting that last year's Oscars and this year's, The Shape of Water, I guess, is a horror movie. I would have thought more of a fantasy movie, but it won Best Picture, Best Director, And it's just nice seeing these. Guillermo del Toro does all sorts of different things, but his work is more in the fantasy area. But I challenge you not to be in a flood of tears after Pan's Labyrinth. But I think that these.
He gained a lot of notoriety from The Strain. The Strain kind of pigeonholed him a little bit, I think. But The Strain is brilliant, and it's if you're going to be. I mean, if you're going to get classified, that's a great piece.
Well, I just think he's very. Everything that he does is so imaginative. I mean, I remember going to see his first film, which was Mexican film called Kronos, and it was the vampire film, and it was absolutely brilliant. But I had a sort of Del Toro fest with Kronos and Mimic and Crimson Peak again. I love Crimson Peak because I love Gothic horror. But his stuff is fantastic. But and also Get Out, I think that also got nominated, and that was a sort of real life horror movie. So, but what I'm trying to say is that when we talk about writers, they're writers. They're not necessarily just working in one genre. But anyway, I think I've well answered the question.
Yeah. What was it like being in Hellraiser and working with Doug Bradley?
Well, I'll tell you something. I discovered that the whole prosthetic makeup process is, I'm kind of, well, I like, as you probably can already imagine, I love chattering away. I should have been a chatterer. which is actually the thought that was, what did I think of it? It was great fun, but I found the makeup process, and it's only 4 hours in the chair. Ken Cranham, who played Dr. Chenard, he was there for 6 hours. And one day he was all there in the Chenard Cenobite makeup, and they said, we're not going to get to you, Ken, we're so sorry. And his little face. I've been sitting around for 5 hours. It took me 6 hours to get into it. You want me to go home? But it was just a lot of sitting around in a chair, and then you wait for 10 hours to get in front of the camera. So, but this is the film process. It's just, you have to have an enormous amount of patience and not talk a lot, which I found very difficult. Working with Doug and Simon and Ashley and all these people was an absolute delight. I mean, the Cenobites were basically in pretty much the same dressing rooms. So we had to keep our spirits up, and Doug would sit around telling quietly funny jokes. Nico would be, Simon would be dancing the can, and Nico, Vince, the chatterer, would just be laughing at everybody's jokes. And I would serenade people with show tunes from camera. You can actually see this on image animation. Somebody brought a video camera, to the studio one day, and you can see me singing Mein Herr. From Cabaret to one of the makeup guys, Little John. So, in full Cenobite makeup. So, we had to keep our spirits up, Instead of rehearsing our lines, I just sang show tunes. So,
was there any kind of reaction? Did you have like a skin reaction or anything to the makeup?
Well, I think the first time it came off, it took an hour to take the prosthetic makeup off. It's basically glued to your skin with medical adhesive. And I said, oh, my skin's so pink. And the guy said, my makeup artist said, oh, that's oxygen starvation.
Oh, sweet.
Great. And let me tell you, I had to go in. And then I went into my, those days when I was healthy, I went to a health club, and it has a gym, and then I went in and said, listen, I think I need a facial. And she looked at my skin and said, looks like it took half the set away from you. I mean, I used to, assiduously clean my skin, but I had to have a few facials too, because I noticed a lot of lines were appearing because it had a very dehydrating effect.
Right.
So I had to have like numerous moisture facials to get it back to the
That's almost like not being in the sun too much or something,
Exactly, but you've got this rubber stuff glued to your skin for like 12 hours. And it's not good. But, as humans, we're still friends, and that's wonderful. We still meet at conventions, and it's absolutely great. And I just want to insert this because I'm blatantly plugging again. I gave one of my books, it's called The Venus Complex. It's a diary of a serial killer. And Doug likes to, his partner is a sculptress, and she said, oh, could you read Barbie's book? Because we're both fascinated by serial killers. And he read the book to her. And then he came up to me last year and said, listen, I read your book out loud to Steph. I went, oh, God, I'd love to hear that. And he said, well, let's talk about it. And he's just finished narrating the audiobook.
Sweet.
For The Venus Complex, as a diary of a serial killer. Our historian spirals from zero to psycho. And he's done a magnificent job.
I'm sorry, go for it. I don't mean to step on you.
I just want to say that it's been such a delight working with Doug again on something, because he sort of relied on me, to me, I think he's fantastic as an actor, but I've given a bit of direction and stuff, and it's just been delightful working with him again, and he's brought my serial killer character absolutely alive. So that's been a wonderful process.
I have a second off-the-cuff question that Austin's probably going to get mad at me for. Who, and this is going to sound bad, but it's the only way I can word it. Who is your favorite serial killer?
Oh, a real life serial killer.
Yeah.
You know, there can be only one, I'm afraid. Because I sort of based my serial killer on him because he was very smart, and he managed to keep himself together and not lose it. I mean, he did lose it at the end. But Ted Bundy is basically the serial killer poster boy. He was smart, he was clever. Who knows how many people he got, women he got. He was very clever in trapping them. I mean, some of the methods were actually used in the Red Dragon, I think it was, or was it? No, sorry, Silence of the Lambs. I think they used some of his methods for that serial killer. He's still sort of right up there with the brilliant ones. I actually managed to interview a New York homicide detective who just finished a serial killer case, but unfortunately, his case was dumber than a sack of hair, and he got caught after. He just left clues everywhere, and so he was caught relatively quickly because he had a previous record. But there's a couple of them. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, although I know that Brian Dennehy played him in the made-for-TV movie. Is the one that dressed up as a clown and killed young men. John Wayne Gacy, yeah. And buried the poor kids in his basement and stuff, and painted paintings of plants. I mean, that's really, really disturbing.
Yeah.
I'm going with Jack the Ripper just because they still don't really know who he was, but that's really the only Zodiac otherwise too.
Oh gosh, actually, now that you mentioned it, I would still say as far as my research is concerned for my book, that was the top. Ted Bundy was at the top. And funnily enough, I met a fan once, and I was talking about my book, and she said, "You got to see my Ted Bundy tattoo." And her whole thigh was full of Ted. That's going a bit far.
So, yeah.
But honestly, Jack the Ripper, I've read about 10 books on that case. One of the best ones was co-written by Colin Wilson, who's one of my favorite crime writers. And then, of course, what was the other one you mentioned? Scorpio? Zodiac. No, Scorpio was the character that Andy Robinson played in Dirty Harry.
Yeah.
Of course, the Scorpio killer. Yeah, I met Andy Robinson again for the first time in years in Chicago last year, and what a delight!
How is it like being a horror icon?
Sorry, I'm not laughing at whatever. It's just that never in a million years, when I was supporting Gary Newman and doing my other little acting bits, I would have thought in 30 years' time it would be called an icon of horror. I wear the badge proudly. I'm very pleased that people recognize me as that, and I realize that there aren't that many women who get that accolade. So it's wonderful. It's great, and if you you might see my little face, bright shiny little blonde face on Facebook, and people come up and say, like I said before, you scared me to death when I was 8 years old. I think, result, because I'm not very scary in real life,
Well,
it's delightful.
I like the modesty. I really, that is a genuine human trait is modesty, and I like that.
No, it is what people say. So I go around saying, "Oh, I'm an icon of horror." Is that people have given me that accolade, and I take it with enormous thanks. Because who would have thought 30 years ago that I'd be sitting here and talking to you guys about this movie, which has obviously touched a lot of people.
Oh yeah.
Speaks to the quality of your work. Speaks to the quality of your work, as far as I'm concerned.
Oh yeah.
Oh, well, thank you.
What's your thoughts on Hellraiser Judgment with Paul T. Taylor as Pinhead?
I haven't seen the film yet, but I've met Paul, and I promised him I would see the film. But I'm just about to enter into pre-production on a film based on my short horror story Blue Eyes with Chris Alexander, who's the ex-editor-in-chief of Fangoria. We're just working out, hopefully, the final details soon. But this is a really disgusting horror movie. It's going to be fabulous. Anyway, I haven't had, my brain has been in all sorts of other places. I will see this movie. But it was so nice meeting Paul, and he said, you know, never in a million years when he first watched the Hellraiser films that he would be playing Pinhead. But, you know, obviously, it's a difficult one because, you know, I've just seen Doug playing Pinhead. And then there was the other one, came out a couple of years ago by Gary Tunnicliffe again. What was that? Was it Revelations?
I think so.
Yeah, I didn't see that one. And to be perfectly honest, I've only seen the first two films. So
that's honesty.
Yeah. No, it's. I started watching the one where Pinhead was in space, and then it goes back to the Martian.
So
it's Pinhead in space, right?
I know. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I have promised Paul that I will see it, and I'm going to keep my promise. And actually, you know, I better watch it soon, actually, because we're sort of meeting now in conventions. But I did promise I'd watch it, but I haven't seen it yet. But I will see it. And from what I understand, it's very violent and noisy and does all the right things, you know. But I know that there are a lot of people who just feel that Doug should be Pinhead and stuff. But you know, I think that Doug is he's a realist, but I don't think he even got to read this script because from what I can understand, the non-disclosure agreement was terms were very arduous, and he thought, you know, I've known, you know, all these people so many years, but anyway, you know, it's but we'll see. I mean, have you guys seen it? What did you think?
I have not seen it yet.
I haven't either, and I was going to say I'll piggyback you, and I'm going to make sure I see it now too because I feel amiss to have not seen it.
Yeah, I think, you know, it's why not, you know?
Yeah.
But I do feel
I'm not busy, so I don't have the excuse you have because I'm not busy, so I have no excuse at all.
Yeah.
I'm sitting out here in a cabin in the woods, literally. I should be watching nothing but horror, but I watch X-Files.
What do you have planned in the future? Any future projects you're working on?
Well, I am just about to. I've sort of co-writing the script from an original short horror story of mine called Blue Eyes, and it's going to be shot in Canada, or no, maybe even in the United States. You know, soon. We're just finalizing details with, and it's going to be directed and co-written by Chris Alexander, is saying. I'm also writing a fourth female Cenobite story. What else? Oh, and finishing up the audiobook project with Doug of the Venus Complex. And I'm working on a ghost story novel. And then I might be also expanding the novella. Well, it's not a novella, actually. It's not long enough for a novella. But I wrote a short story called Valeska about a vampire story, and it started out as a novel, and then I put it as a short story in my collection, Voices of the Damned. That's sort of ripe. Many people have said it should be a novel, so that's going to be expanded. They don't drink blood, by the way. My vampires.
Nice.
There's an old Chinese saying that 1 drop of semen is equal to 10 drops of blood. So I'll let you make that leap about what my vampires drink.
Nice. Got suckiness going on. Nice.
Yeah.
I like it.
Those first 3 letters.
When is that coming out? Because I'm watching that.
Oh, well, hey, buy my collection. You can read the disgusting short horror story. And it's just because I thought, God, after just trying 3 times to get through the Twinkly Vampire thing, like I tried, You have to understand that vampires are my favorite genre, and
Right.
you know the whole teen angst vampire. Yuck, man! I want like serious adult vampires. That's why I love Only Lovers Left Alive so much. You know, because they're really tired vampires.
Yeah.
I've seen the Twilight series, but I also recognize the ridiculousness of the Twilight series, and what it was. It just wasn't right.
Yeah. Thanks for being on the show, Bobby. It's been great. I can't wait to post this when it's officially edited. Thanks being on. I can't even talk. Thanks being on.
Bobby, is there a website or a Facebook people can get a hold of you, or can?
Sure, you can follow me. You can follow me at Barbie Wilde on Twitter, and my Facebook page is Barbie.Wilde, and then there's also Barbie Wilde author actress Facebook page. All my projects, The Venus Complex, Voices of Damned, and Blue Eyes, all have their own pages, and then there's BarbieWilde.com. But I've kind of neglected that one. It just says, for all the latest news, go to my Facebook page. So that's all the media that's good.
Well, please check us out on everywhere on social media and have a great day. That's the wrap.